Hi, my name is Griffin Schwan, and for my research project, I am focusing on the treating and disposing of nuclear waste and what are the environmental consequences of this treatment and what are the long-term consequences we can expect in the future. The state of nuclear in the world. Currently, it is a significant source of power in the world, especially concerning renewable energy. It accounts for a large percentage of the renewable energy produced in many developing countries. In fact, some countries like France even produce the majority of their energy by this. There's some dangers associated with nuclear fusion, especially because we're splitting atoms at a microscopic level, but in general, it is deemed to be extremely safe by the scientific community. Its main use in the military sector is pretty obvious. It was used in both Hiroshima and Nagasaki as an atomic bomb, but they continue to be used as weapons of war today. And the largest application in the civilian sector is as a source of clean power throughout the world. As you can see on this chart, this is a graph of the worldwide nuclear power usage. In first is the United States, who has consistently since the dawn of the nuclear age been a major player, especially in nuclear arms, but also in nuclear power. Closely followed are other first world developed nations, including France and Japan, who have seen massive growth, but in recent years has somewhat waned due to environmental concerns and also the danger of this power source. Nuclear waste. Nuclear waste contains many dangerous radioactive substances. It has actually been known in recent years that there has been a new formation of radioactive substances within the tanks that they're stored. These substances are known to be even more harmful than the original substances. There is no permanent storage solution anywhere in the world. Right now, there is only temporary storage that will only last decades. There was not many regulations at the beginning of the nuclear age, so that's pretty much why we have far-reaching problems that we do today. Because companies were not required to submit a plan for what they do after they use the rods and all the nuclear. They only had to submit a plan for what they do with it. And there's nuclear waste currently leaking at many nuclear plants, including Hanford and Washington states, right here in the United States. And there's many abandoned sites throughout the United States, and to a greater extent the world, that have leftover waste with nowhere to do with it. On this slide is a chart of the nuclear waste, and as you can see, the amount of waste is growing rapidly over the years. Ever since the dawn of the nuclear age, we've had a problem with containment and disposal of nuclear waste. So here you can see the hundreds of thousands of metric tons that are being produced, and from 1975 to 2015, we've had an exponential growth that's only expected to keep rising. In just a few years, we will be at hundreds of thousands of tons of metric waste with nowhere to go. Environmental concerns of nuclear waste storage. Improper storage can lead to contamination of both groundwater and the soil around it. The dangers of radioactive particles include cancer and birth defects if not properly contained. The most common form of spreading of the particles is via groundwater when it infiltrates the rock that it's typically stored in. Even a minor accident such as the 2011 Fukushima accident has led to radioactive particles over 30 miles away. In fact, an even better example is the Chernobyl disaster when there was a radioactive fallout of over 30 miles away and an exclusion zone was set up. Still to this day, no one can live in this area. The contamination can taint food and water supplies and make areas unlivable for the foreseeable future. Processing and neutralizing nuclear waste. In the past, especially the 50s and 60s, there was little to nothing done to process or recycle waste. It was simply left where it lied at the plant or tried to be buried. Now, every year there's being new solutions being developed to attempt to neutralize this waste and to render it harmless. A new development is a highly acidic solution that can partially or completely neutralize the components of the waste. The major problem with this, however, is the highly acidic solution is also toxic to humans and also needs to be stored separate because it's not safe to release into the atmosphere or groundwater. Most waste still has not been properly disposed of throughout the world. The current storing of nuclear waste. Currently, most waste is stored on site. This is even true for abandoned sites such as Hanford in Washington state, which have nuclear waste leaking because it has been improperly stored. Most waste is currently in unstable containment because it was built to be temporary, short-term storage, and they would figure out a solution later, namely a permanent repository. But this has been the way for decades with no progress on a new long-term storage facility. Therefore, there is no high-level storage containment area in the United States or even the world currently, so most of it is stored in concrete silos like you see below for the foreseeable future. As you can see on this slide, this is a current cooling and storage pond for nuclear waste. The problem with this is that these were meant to be a temporary solution until a permanent repository was found. This water actually has to be changed quite frequently because there's trace radioactive amounts leaking from the concrete surrounding the control rods that were used in the nuclear reactor. So this water also becomes a nuclear waste because it is unsafe for consumption or use by humans. So therefore, we have to find a place for the water too to be stored until it can be dealt with. Current problems with nuclear waste. Right now, if there is a breach in storage, highly dangerous substances will dissipate into the atmosphere and also the groundwater. The short-term storage solutions do not last nearly as long as they need to be effective. A long-term storage solution is needed. This is due to the fact that the half-life of these substances is thousands of years, which means for thousands of years these substances will be dangerous and radioactive, if even humans come near them. The amount of waste being accumulated is growing year over year. As evidenced in the previous chart, it is exponentially increasing as there is the decommissioning of old plants that no longer serve a purpose, which accelerates the rate of waste accumulation. The future of nuclear energy concerning waste. There's an increasing amount of waste that is being produced in the world today. Just by conservative projections, we are looking at hundreds of thousands of metric tons of waste in the coming years alone. We will likely have more efficient ways of treating the waste, similar to the new innovation of the highly acidic solution being sprayed into the nuclear waste tanks. The development of new nuclear reactors continues, even in the face of all these problems that we are currently experiencing in this climate. There's likely to be high growth due to the new phasing out of fossil fuels that is projected in the coming years, and this being a reliable, clean source of energy. As you can see, the future of nuclear energy is bright, and here is my works cited first section. Here's my second section. Thanks for watching.